So it's lucky for all of us. It's also lucky number 7 minutes past 9 o'clock. And it's lucky for me, Tom Dyer, because I'm joined by Hayley Wheeler. Good evening, Hayley.
Good evening, Tom. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. The time has rolled around again, and here we are talking healthy minds, better lives. Can you believe it's come by already?
I can't. Easter has flown by. Everything has flown by. And I think because of Easter, it's really early, isn't it, this year as well?
Yes. And I think it's caught a few people unawares, isn't it? And then that it's only dawned on me, because I don't have any children, but it's only dawned on me coming into April that the Easter holidays, it's 2 weeks off. By the time the kids are back in school, we're over halfway through the month. And all of a sudden we're thinking about April. Oh, it's nearly May. And time, you've got to be really conscious to stay in the present, don't we? When things just feel like they're snowballing out of control.
Yeah, I find I live half term to half term. So I'm kind of ahead of myself. I'm already thinking of May half term, and it's not that far away, actually.
No, it's only, it's either 6 or 7 weeks, isn't it? Like 8 weeks in total. That's all it is. And then we're going to be back to it again. So in a blink of an eye, the last show has been and gone. And just looking back to what we discussed last month, we had the 5 tips for well-being, which actually we're going to kind of touch upon again this evening as well in a different manner.
Yes, we're going to look at what makes or what signs that we have good mental health. And I think this is really important, because we tend to look for, are we doing a lot of promotion around looking for the signs of not being well? So we might be missing the signs that show that we're doing better than we think we are.
That's a very good point, actually, because the comparisonitis is something that could make us feel worse than we actually are doing if you break it down and look at it a bit holistically.
Yeah, I think we said last time, didn't we, with social media, it's easy to compare with what people are portraying on social media. But actually, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, lots of people their lives are very different to what we're seeing. And I think we compare things. We're comparing apples and pears. We're not even comparing the same thing, are we?
No, not at all. So I'm very interested to look at this well-being continuum that you've devised, and going through that in a bit of detail very shortly. We also had Tai Chi Frank, who joined us last week as well. And of course, if you want to know more about Tai Chi Frank, he's going to be in Withybush in like 10 days' time. He's going to be doing a number of sessions, and he even invited us to do a Zoom session, which we still need to sign up for.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, actually. I was looking into Tai Chi. It must be about 5 years ago. So I was still kind of struggling with my depression, on my way out of depression. But there was one in Neath, but I don't know why I didn't go for it. I think it was the timing of it, because the kids and stuff doing sports. But so I'm looking forward to giving it a go.
Yeah. Same here, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Frank has to say with these sessions. He's hoping to do more and more now. The clocks have changed. That's something we can touch upon as well, actually. Tammy shared a video that we did last year about reverse SAD. And for those who are regular watchers and listeners, because this is live on our Facebook, you're probably wondering, where is Tammy? Because she did a guided practice with us last month. Well, she's actually taking she's practicing what we preached, Hayley.
Yes, she is. She's taking some well-deserved rest, and in the sunshine as well.
Yeah, I like this. Humor is always good for the soul. Green tea, lovely. Oh, Tai Chi, not. No, do you get it?
I do
get it. And also we've got a hello. Yes, we are here. We are live with you through until 11 o'clock. And no doubt Tammy's probably got an ear pod in somewhere listening to us and making sure that we're sticking to the straight and narrow. So it does mean, though, Hayley, keeping with the humor, that you're going to have to freewheeler a bit more with the talking.
You are good with those jokes, Tom. Dad jokes as they are.
Gina on The Breakfast Show absolutely loves them, I promise. So coming up on the show, we've already mentioned we're going to be talking about this well-being continuum, which I'm very excited to be catching up about. But we've also got April is Stress Awareness Month. So Stress Awareness Month, all of April. So we're going to have Carl Williams from Synergy Health and Fitness. He's joining us after 10 o'clock to talk about how he manages stress. And we've got some hints and tips and things to not only manage it, but before that, you need to recognize it, don't you, Hayley?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's very easy to get we ignore a lot of the early warning signs. It's very easy to just keep going until we hit crisis point. And I think that's something I want to help as many people to avoid as much as possible, which is why I come up with the wellbeing continuum.
Yeah, and they're very closely linked, aren't they? The continuum and recognizing and managing stress, because of course not all stress is bad, which is very important to point out. And also coming up in about 15, 20 minutes time, we've got a very special guest on. Ceri Ashe is going to be joining us live as well. She's going to be talking about her upcoming comedy play, which a lot of people wouldn't necessarily associate with comedy, but talking about bipolar, the mental health condition. Now, Hayley, what are your thoughts? Before we even have a chance to talk to Ceri, what are your thoughts on this conversation, having it as a comedy?
I think it's brilliant because it's really like when I have a laugh in my workshops, people are like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. I'm really uncomfortable. But actually, it's really good to get out and see it in a different light, to have some fun around it. Yes, there's seriousness to mental health issues, but actually there is a bit of fun to be had as well when you manage it really, really well.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's knowing what your boundaries are and what you can joke about. And I've mentioned on this show before, my past life was looking at cancer, people affected by cancer, and some of the patients that I dealt with were some of the funniest people that I knew. They didn't take themselves or their condition so seriously that it caused them detriment on a daily basis. So I'm really interested to hear Ceri's perspective on her bipolar condition and how she's used it to an advantage. To a certain extent, it's given her a creative outlet. So very, very much looking forward to that. We've got Frank joining us. Frank LeBlanc, I recommend oolong tea to help you with your Tai Chi, And talking about doing things that are good, GJ Greg had a great day shopping in Swansea for my daughter's wedding dress. Great de-stressor, children. Which is lovely. And it's great to have that family and support around. I was writing about my family earlier, actually, about having that link and that connection. We were just talking off air that your daughter keeps you busy as well.
Yes, she really, well, they all do actually, but she's the most, well, I'm going to say productive at the moment. We're running up and down the motorway 5 times a week altogether. But you know, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. There are nights where I could sleep more, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Talking of changing things, that's exactly what GJ's done as well. He had a divorce a week ago, greatest de-stressor of all. So congratulations. Congratulations. It's quite a big deal, isn't it, when that finally comes through? So that's what we've got in store for the rest of the evening. So first things first, Hayley, give us a bit of a background into this emotional well-being spectrum that you've designed.
There's lots of versions out there. There's lots of different ways of just identifying. And for me, it was about having a visual aid to be able to keep track of how you're feeling, because it is something, becoming aware, as you said earlier, the first step of dealing with stress is recognizing it. So being aware of how you are feeling, how your body is in general, how your thoughts are, is really important, because particularly your thoughts, it's very easy to miss the negative thoughts when they come, because we are kind of used to it. We're used to negative self-talk, and I think that goes back to the playground. So being really aware of what's going on for you and not being influenced by other people. So what I designed was a 4-step process, and it really does start with recognizing when you're well. So being able to say, look, I'm good. I'm doing well in life. I'm coping well with everything. I've got a good quality of life. I'm managing the stress really, really well. So at this point, you tend to be managing the stress really, really well. But the problem being at this point, when people are well, they do not invest in their mental health. They tend to go the other way because, you get a bit complacent, as we do with everything in life. We get complacent with it. And we just go on with life, but then life gets busy. And I think this is, for me at this point, it is about making sure that you are implementing self-care practices, whatever they may be for you. We've had Tai Chi Frank on. We've done all sorts of different things, meditation with Tammy last time. But finding the things that work for you, even when things are going well, because the mistake a lot of people make is that they don't. They don't tend to look after themselves.
And interestingly, Tracy Bainan's been in touch on Facebook as well. She's been having a bad time health-wise lately. So I tried breathing meditation for the first time today. It really helped to calm me down. And that's that acknowledgement that something's becoming overwhelming, but there's something that I can try to try and get me back into that well category. So you've got 4 categories. Just very quickly, take us through the titles of each one.
So we've got well as the starting point. We've got situational response, which is not on other ones I've seen. Symptomatic indicator, and then feeling unwell. So it's just, and you can move up and down that. You know, you can go from being well to unwell and anything in between. But it's about it's the awareness for me. That's the key.
Yeah. And if you're well and you're feeling well and everything's that little bit more vibrant and there's an element of life around you that you think, oh, I'm doing really well. I'm productive. I've got good relationships with the people around me. I've got food in the cupboards. Like, that's a really good place to be. And then unwell, the polar opposite, that's that 4th stage of unwell. You're probably a little bit more aware than you would be that things aren't great. And I imagine it's the 2 middle ones that can cause the biggest issue to us on a day-to-day basis, that situational response and that symptomatic indicator. Is that fair to say?
I would say so. I think when we become complacent, we forget that things that happen in our lives have an impact on us. And when we're coping really well and we're getting on with things, we just kind of forget that, you know, things like for divorce, I know for some it's really good, for others it's really stressful. But people will, maybe because somebody else is having a good divorce or is excited about their divorce, you feel like you have to be excited about your divorce. And you kind of forget that actually that's having an impact on you because you're pretending that it's not. And, you know, divorce is a massive one. But there's lots of little things as well. You know, you've said today, Tom, that you've been working since 6 o'clock. You've had a long day. Do too many of those, and potentially there's some symptoms there or situations there that are feeling a bit more overwhelming, and maybe you're tired a bit more. So be aware of that.
Yeah, it is about finding that balance, isn't it? GJ is on fire this evening. Now there's one comment which I'm going to come back on, but he says about being optimistic and about worrying, but also he's mentioned about relaxation is simply the best. Get some relaxation tapes. The NHS do some great online tapes to listen to, and you're just talking about me there putting in the shifts. Yesterday we had Silky, a producer, on the show talking about lullabies. Carl will know all about Silky because he loves him, and I got to speak to him yesterday. But finding that time to relax and switch off, but also GJ's made the point about finding a great counsellor and having some form of talking therapy, and getting whatever might be on your chest off your chest can also be a good way of moving up that continuum.
Absolutely, because it's about knowing, isn't it? It's once you've recognised that there's potentially a problem, or not, as the case may be. If you're well, that's good, but recognising that maybe you've got some stress coming up and there's a situation on the horizon that could cause you some stress, is prepping yourself. So while you're aware, put in those things that will help you. This is the thing, there is no right or wrong. It's about doing whatever works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then find the next thing that does work for you. So while you're in that situation, you're ready, you're looking after yourself.
And of course, there are some people that might be more towards the well end of the spectrum and not really they might not appreciate just how close to that well that they're in. And GJ has made 2 points here. There's worry kills. So don't do it. Don't worry about the things you can't change. And I'm going to come around to that. And he's also put, always be optimistic and positive. The glass is always half full. Now, for some people, both of these statements are untrue. Mm-hmm. But they might be really close to that well column if they could take on some of this advice. But is there a risk that if we're trying to tell people, oh, don't worry about it, just be optimistic, is that actually doing the opposite to the desired effect?
Well, do you know, I don't know if you were with us the night we talked about toxic positivity. Now, I'm a bit loath to add toxic in front of all these things, but I think it can really have a detrimental effect on people when we tell them, don't worry, I am worrying. You tell me not to worry, but I am worrying. And I think it's really important to give people the option. There is an option there to find a way to be more positive, because some people are negative thinkers. Some people are just negative, and they have to focus more on being positive. So if we're telling them, don't be negative, it makes them feel bad. So if we teach them that, okay, this is you are a negative thinker, you think through a negative lens, what do you need to do in order to help you think more positively and see things more positively? And it may well be just taking 5 minutes before you react or respond, to be able to put that negative aside and see the positives in things. So we're not even talking complicated here.
Yeah. And you mentioned way back about recognizing those thoughts, and those that have that kind of that worrier, I'm going to call them like a worrier trait. They are the ones that are always looking for, oh, what could go wrong? What else could I do about this? Or this is going to happen. And they can catastrophize is a big word, but they can go down this path of it's not going to have a good outcome. But recognizing that some of those thoughts are not based in fact is also a key driver in that acknowledgement as to what you're thinking and what's actually happening as well.
Absolutely, because most people I work with anxiety and worries, most of the worries are, there's nothing tangible to be worried about. Some things that are, finances and things like that, that's tangible. But a lot of anxiety comes from intangible things. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it, but you feel anxious about it anyway. And that can be quite confusing, because what the heck am I worried about? Why am I worried? There's nothing there. But if we can support them to recognize that, or they learn to support themselves to recognize that changes everything for them.
Yeah. And going back to what GJ said, is that if you can have that conversation, and you can have that conversation without judgment as well, because a lot of the time, or from my experience, if you tell someone not to worry about it, you're being judged that you are now a worrier and that you always think that way, when that might not actually be the case. And it's about letting those barriers come down, isn't it? And without judgment, just have an open conversation. When this happens, I feel X. When I feel this, I feel Y. And just being able to get that conversation out of you.
Yeah, and we don't talk enough about emotions, do we? We've talked a bit about emotions on here, but we really haven't touched a great deal on emotions because we've talked around them. This is key for me, is if you can learn to process, express and release emotions, then you can have more control over how you feel. And I see that GJ Greg has put in that pessimistic is never good. Be negative is a choice, plain and simple. Everything in life is simplistic. People choose to make it difficult. I understand depression well, but free will and great choice can and will move us on. I understand that, but I also understand the pressure when you are not in that headspace. And I think that's, without the label of toxic, I think that's where it becomes quite challenging for somebody. I'm not there and you're telling me I should be there. It's about balancing the advice and the guidance. Yet when I had depression, I would love to have been able to have switched everything off like that. And it took me 2 years to fight it. It took me 3 years all in all. Because that didn't happen for me. Meditation, I could not have done meditation. If you'd have paid me to do meditation back then, I could not have done meditation. Not for love nor money. But now I can do it, not long, but I can do meditation now and like I could before. So it's about being able to balance that. This is me. I'm a negative thinker. Give me a bit of time and I will find my way to switch it and see the positives.
Yeah. And in fact, GJ is, I hope he doesn't mind me showing this on the screen, but it's on Facebook. It's a public forum. He's I've fought depression for 30 years or more. So he's also someone who's very aware as to how his thoughts are functioning. And through the other comments he's put in about talking and about relaxation, he's found methods that has worked.
And that's the key, isn't it? Whatever works for you, do it until it doesn't, and then find the next thing that works for you, whatever that may be. But I think having a definitive, you are or you aren't, or you can or you can't, that's quite harsh for people who aren't feeling it. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but for people who are not feeling it, it can be quite a pressure.
Yeah. And I'm interested, actually. The G.A. Greg has put comments in here about medication is never the answer long term. So he does appreciate that there's a short term need for them. And oppressors and suppressors, it's okay for a time. I'm interested to see whether Ceri, who we've got coming up just after past, I want to know what her thoughts are on how she's managed her mental health condition and how these things have impacted her and her creative processes as well. So it'll be interesting to get Ceri's point of view on this as well. So Ceri's going to be joining us very shortly. I'm just going to we're going to revisit this continuum before 11 o'clock. We're going to go through the well, the situational response, the symptomatic indicator, and the unwell. But before we welcome Ceri to the show, I just want you very quickly. Well, we've got a good idea as to what that looks like. Hayley, do you mind just giving us an overview as to what unwell looks like? So if there's someone listening or watching this at the moment, they know on your continuum that, oh gosh, I should probably do something if I'm definitely in this column.
I think for me, it's about low quality of life. So you're not able to maybe leave the house, or you're not able to socialize with people. Life has become quite restrictive, so that comfort zone is really small. Maybe you're low functioning and you're just about managing to get through your day, and maybe you're not even eating, maybe you're not sleeping very well, and there's a mix of things here. And this, these aren't the indicators of poor mental health. They're the indicators of lots of different things, but maybe it's about, if you are feeling like you are not coping with anything at all, it's a good time to reach out for help if you can.
Okay, so that's the unwell. So if you resonate with what Hayley's mentioned there, in fact, I'm going to try and find a way to get this onto the screen for our social viewers and listeners as well, so you can have a look whilst we're live and we can talk through it together. And if Hayley's okay with that, then if you are in that bracket and you're thinking, oh gosh, maybe I should reach out to someone, then please do. There are services around. The one that jumps to my mind, because I talked to Mark Jones earlier on the Breakfast Show about a new study that's come out and a new song that's come out where 20% of young people are feeling anxious all of the time. And with Direct Line and with Mind, they've produced this song together that's come out. And Mind is an excellent resource as a port of call to get that first step of help. If you don't want to go straight to your doctor, if you think, am I actually like this? Just reaching out to that service might be enough in the first instance.
Absolutely. Whatever service works, and Mind is across the UK as well. So the other one is they're not Havel anymore. They're Adverica. I'll have to check this out. They've changed their name, Adver Recovery. I'll check it out. But there's another. They're really good as well, because they work with carers as well as the people who are struggling with their mental health.
Yeah. And then one of the last points here that GJ's mentioned on the Facebook, which I do agree with to an extent. I understand empathy and sympathy, but pity is never right. And I think that's important, actually. Anyone that does have a mental health condition, we don't need to pity them. We need to be present and we need to support them. Is my default setting. What are your thoughts, Hayley?
Yeah, absolutely. I work with clients who have been in depression for 20, 30 years. I've worked with clients who are new to anxiety. I don't do the tough love as such. I challenge them to empower them. And that's my angle, is that I look at, what is it that we can do? I'm not going to push you into what you can't do yet, but we will work towards that. And I think the empowerment model for me is probably the best model, because you're teaching them skills for life, not just to get over depression. You are teaching them skills for life.
Yeah. And that's crucial, isn't it? If you can give someone the tools when they are confronted by a new issue, because it's going to happen. We're going to life continues throwing stuff at us all the time. Yes, you could treat one thing, but if you can give them the toolkit and the resources, I think I've called it psychological flexibility in the past. If you can give them that belief that they can overcome something, then they're more likely to use their own resources and their own network before getting to that stage where they do fall into the unwell bracket.
Absolutely. Having life skills, emotional life skills, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. It really is.
Yeah. We are going to take a moment, and I'm glad that we are revisiting this before the end of the show, because there's still so much to talk about. I'm interested in these symptomatic indicators and these situation responses, talking about psychological flexibility. I think that the situational response, things that happen to us circumstantially, can have a huge impact on us, not just in that moment, but further along down the line without us even realizing it. And so I'm very much looking forward to further in-depth conversation with you about that one. Hoping to get Ceri joining us to talk about her comedy, Bipolar, which she's bringing to Theatre Gwaun on the 21st, I believe, the first one. That's going to be in Welsh and in English. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take a moment. We're going to leave you with Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding in the meantime. And Ceri Ashe of Bipolar, all being well. So don't go anywhere. It is 29:33 as we speak, and here is Miracle.
When you hold me